Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Code Along. We're going to be showing how you can code an exciting egg project in Scratch with my colleague Nick here. So, we are
Hello.
delighted to have you on the stream. To get us started, please jump into the chat, whatever channel you are watching us along on, and let us know where you're joining from. And while you're doing that, I'll highlight some of the things that we're going to be talking about on today's call. So, firstly, what is Coolest Projects? Coolest Projects is a celebration of young people and the fun things that they make. And anyone up to 18 years of age can participate in the showcase. So, there's two different ways you can participate in Coolest Projects. There's an online showcase where young people right around the world can register their projects and have them there for their friends, family, and people all around the world to see them. And then there's also a series of in person events, which I'll be highlighting some of a little later on. And while people are messaging in the chat, I also just wanted to highlight who we are and what we are involved in terms of our roles here at the foundation. So, my name is Nuala. I'm the Global Engagement Manager at the Cutter Dojo Foundation, and I'm joined here today by Nick. Nick, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi. Yeah, thanks, Nila. So I'm Nick. I'm the program coordinator for the youth programs at the Raspberry Pi Foundation, and I work on Coolest projects, also our AstroPi project, and I work on the Scout sponsorship as well.
Great, amazing. Thank you so much for that. And we're really excited to be talking about Coolest Projects today and to be coding along in Scratch with you all. And we hope you can follow along. We'll be sharing some of the links to the finished project at the end, but you can also jump into a Scratch tab while we get started and follow along while Nick is coding. So right before we do that, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Coolest Projects because the project you code along with today is something you could enter into our Coolest Projects events or the online showcase as well. So I'll tell you a little bit more. So, what can young people make and enter into Coolest Projects? Well, really, any digital project that they've worked on, either individually or in groups of up to 5 young people. And there are 6 categories of projects. So, Scratch, which we'll be using today, is one, but there's also 5 other categories. So, web, games, mobile apps, hardware, and advanced programming as well. And I really want to stress that all levels of projects are welcome. So whether a young person you know is a complete beginner, this is their first time that they've coded a project either in Scratch or another coding language, we'd love to see their projects. And as well as that, we love seeing more advanced projects too. So if there's a young person in your club or that you know has been coding at home, we love to see those projects and what young people are interested in and making at home as well. And it can be something completely new. So you can start thinking up an idea if you get inspired by today's webinar. But also, if they've coded something themselves already and they're really proud of it, that's something we'd love to see in the showcase as well. And just to highlight some of the in person events, you can see the list of those there. I really want to point out as well Coolest Projects UK, which is on in Bradford on the 11th of May. The registration for that is closing soon. So this day week on next Wednesday, the oh no, 2 weeks time. Sorry about that. Uh, the 17th of April, the project registration deadline for that will be. So make sure if you are involved in a club in the UK or you know a young person who has a project that they'd be interested in entering into that in person event to get their projects registered soon. And as well as that, the registration deadline for the online showcase is the 22nd of May. So you do have a bit more time with that one. Great. To highlight what the online showcase looks like, I wanted to show you a few of the projects. And as well as that, I love this quote from a Coder Dojo volunteer, Mark, where he shares how whatever level of project young people are at, that is exactly what Coolest Projects is all about. It's not about the most complex project or the most technically advanced project. It's all about sharing their ideas, having an opportunity to show what they've learned and to build on their skills, including teamwork, presentation skills, and creativity. So we love seeing those as well. Great. So now I'm going to share my examples of some of the other awesome projects we have here from the showcase gallery from last year. So there's actually some of the showcase projects from this year are already live on the site, but I wanted to pick out just a few examples from last year to show you the kinds of projects that young people have been entering. So we have this project from Saki in Japan, who's showing us this very fun animation, which I'll play now, about a Japanese grass lizard eating sushi. And you can see there the lizard eating away and celebrating how happy they are. So that just gives you one example of the kinds of projects young people have made. We also have this Pokemon style game where you can control the Pokemon trainer and walk around into different places. Similar, this was a co-club team, Jamie there, who shared how much he really enjoyed Pokemon and wanted to create something that replicated that game that they were interested in as well. And then here's another game that I loved from. You can see there's a few team members there, and they created this game. So it's a bit more advanced because they've been working together as a team. But you can see there, there's different levels. There's health, and you can see there as the character gets hit by that fire, monster, their your health goes down. I'm sorry, I was getting a bit too engaged in the game there, and you can see how the different types of scratch projects and animations that young people can make with those example games. So that's what I wanted to share. Nick, are you happy to jump into your code along session now?
I absolutely am. That's just got me in the mood, actually, looking at those projects there.
Great.
You reminded me, actually, with the closing of Coolest Projects. I've got a nephew that I need to. He showed me a scratch project quite recently, so I'm going to give him a little nudge to get his project in before it closes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure. So I'll share my screen now, and if people want to code along at home, that's absolutely fine. If people would just like to watch and maybe do this in their own time, that's fine as well. After looking at those games as well, I want to point out that you can, in Scratch, actually remix things. So, if you're browsing through the catalogs of stuff that people have already done, you could alter any of those projects to be your own. I'm going to show you something that we've done today. We're going to make a little game from scratch just to show you kind of how easy it is to get started. This is slightly now sort of post the event. It's an Easter egg hunt game. I'm just going to show you the sort of finished article here. The reason I've chosen this one to do today is that it's super simple to do, super adaptable. Like the Easter theme could be replaced with something else so easily. And I'll show you a couple of variations of the game at the end, just so you can see, what else it could be. So I'm just going to give you a little demo of it here, of what we're aiming for. So we've got 10 seconds on the clock, and I've got to click these eggs, and as you see, the eggs are all sort of different colors, different positions, and sort of rotations, and that's it. 10 seconds. I scored 9, so I didn't do super well on that time, but that's just sort of inspired me to go a bit quicker. And the timer and the score are up there on the top left. So there we go, 13, nailed it. I'll just show you inside what the code looks like in our Scratch editor. And it looks a bit like this. So these are all the blocks of code you need to make the game. And I've stripped this out to sort of a bare minimum, really, like that you can embellish this quite easily, add your own sounds to it, change the sprites and sort of like characters or objects involved. I'm going to assume that people are starting right from the beginning. So if you don't mind, I'm going to actually come out of this game where I've got all the code kind of complete, and I'm just going to start a new project. So I'm going to sign out from here. Now, if you are on Scratch, if this is your first time on the website or anything, I'll just give you a little instructions on how to basically just start a project. At the top, there's a create button here. All you need to do is just click that, and it should open up the editor for you. And it will give you just a blank project. If this is the first time that you've ever logged on and you haven't signed up, you don't have an account or anything, so it won't have your username up here in the corner on the top right. You might have a green tutorial box down here, which gives you some clues about what the different parts of the editor does. You can just go ahead and close that or view it another time if you wish. I'm just going to give you a quick tour and then just dive right in. But feel free to, have a little play around with any of the stuff. So you may have done this at school. We've got the editor here that's split up into kind of 3-4 main windows. Over here, we have all these blocks, all color-coded into these different menus. Every color, every section here will do a different thing. So we've got stuff down here to do with sensing, stuff like here to do if we're doing some number crunching, variables, which we'll get into in a short while. And you can actually make custom blocks down there at the bottom, but we won't be doing any of that today. This is just very kind of easy entry level. Over here in the middle, this big white space is the kind of code area where we'll assemble our code. And this symbol up here means that it's this is the code for this sprite down here in this kind of sprite window. I'm going to not be using the cat today. We're going to make a new sprite and actually kind of draw an egg. So you'll see this picture up here will change. This is the kind of finished article. This is like the viewer where you actually see your project. I can move objects around it just with my mouse, but you can also move objects around using code as well. So we'll get that into that in a moment. Now, I'm going to change this cat though, because we don't actually need the cat costume. Over here where we've got code, I can view this is where the code would be for the cat. We can also look at a couple of other tabs on this top left here, and if I click on costumes, it will kind of show us the image of the cat that we're working with. There's 2 variations here, so this is to allow you to do animations and things. What I'm going to do is just get rid of the second of the costume, so we're just working with one. And then I'm going to just select all of the rest of the costume here and just delete it. So I'm just going to start again on this costume one. And if you've ever used kind of Microsoft Paint or anything like that, we're just going to draw a very simple egg. So if anyone's got any questions or if I'm going too fast, please just put them in the chat or just, I was going to say shout out, but it's not that kind of call. I think you have to put it in the chat. So the egg can look like, well, whatever you wish, really. I'm just going to put some basic shapes in here. But again, if you're watching the recording of this, you can pause the video and take your sweet time. And just to make this part quite quick, I'm going to convert to a bitmap here and just add some different colors in. I want a few colors because they're going to be sort of part of the point in a minute. So let's get a nice little blue in there as well. Okay, different colored eggs. So that's the egg done. I changed the cat's appearance by deleting the cat and sort of drawing my own. Another thing that I could have done was add a new costume layer like this and gone up to paint and kind of created one in there, but just one is enough for today. So
right. I can definitely see a lot of young people just really going wild with this and decorating them how they want. It's very cool.
Yeah, like, I think when this is your first project, it's part of the whenever I've done this with like young scouts, for example, it's the part of the project that really takes the longest, is like decorating the egg just how they want it. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our code. You'll see that where the cat was, we now just have a very simple egg. It's still called sprite1, and I can see a couple of attributes about the sprite here. I'm going to actually change the name of my sprite to egg. Not super mandatory, but it is good practice. Now, I want, at the moment, if I click this egg, nothing happens. So that's the first thing that we're going to change. So clicking an egg is called an event. It's something that causes something to happen. So if I go into my events menu over here, I'm going to grab when this sprite is clicked and pull that out. Now, what I want it to do is go to a random position on the stage, and luckily there's a block for that. So if I go back up to motion, so these blue blocks, there is actually a block called go to random position. So now if I click this, already this egg is kind of live. So it's already doing something. When this sprite is clicked, go to random position. And there's also another thing I would like to do. Oh, hang on. Sorry, my lights have turned off. There we go. That's probably not the last time that will happen. Okay. So to change the color of this egg, because it's quite clearly the same egg each time, I'd like to make it look like it's a different egg every time. So if I go to looks, I can find this block here that says change color effect by 25. So if I just pop back into costume, sorry, you'll see if I click on this color up here, the color actually has a value as well as saturation and brightness, but this color one is what I'm interested in at the moment. So 0 is kind of red, 100 is back to red, but in between, all these different numbers correspond to a different color. That's the number that we're going to play with here, change color effect by 25. Now, every time I click that sprite, it's going to add 25 to the color values, which will sort of alter each color slightly and make it look like a completely different egg. Very convincing effect. I'm sure you'll agree. Okay, now it is still upright, still clearly in the same sort of position each time. So I'm going to get this to sort of now rotate slightly to make it look like there's some more variety there. So back into motion, as rotation is a movement block. And I'm going to grab turn by 15 degrees. There's clockwise or anti-clockwise. Doesn't really matter which one you choose. I'm going to choose anti-clockwise because I'm a rebel. And okay, it's doing 15-degree turns every time I click. I'm going to pause here just to sort of read out the code in plain English, because I feel like it makes this whole project make a bit sense. So it says when this sprite is clicked, go to random position, change color effect by 25, and turn by 15 degrees. So it's very easy to understand in this block-based code. Although I think you'll agree, the 15-degree turn is slightly disconcerting there. So it would be better if that was a random amount. So we're actually going to change this 15 degrees to a random value. So there's that number crunching I mentioned earlier. If we go over to the green section for operators.
One thing, Nick, before you do this, do you mind zooming in just a little bit? And then
of course.
everyone can see. the details. Perfect. That's brilliant.
Absolutely right. Okay, so at the moment it says 15 degrees in this kind of rounded area. I'm going to get this block out. One good thing about Scratch is that there's so many clues as to what everything's for. You can see these little tabs as they fit together. Like, it helps let you know where everything's gonna fit. Any rounded block is going to fit into another sort of rounded window, really. So I can actually drop this pick random 1 to 10 into there, and the block will resize to take that. And I'm going to change this number to 360, just so now it turns at a random angle, basically anywhere between 1 and 360 degrees, which should mean now that the block is in a more sort of random place anywhere on the screen. Okay. Now, we've got the egg behaving correctly. We don't yet have our score. So the score is for when the game starts. We want a few things to happen when the game starts. So this green flag up here is going to be the thing that runs, like signals a new game. At the moment, if I click it, nothing happens because the only code we've got is for when the egg is actually clicked. I'm going to add some code now for when the green flag is clicked. So over in events, this is going to be a new event when the flag is clicked. Now I'm going to zoom out just a tiny bit. Let's just concern ourselves with this new stack now. So we're going to do something now which is like make a variable. And a variable is like a value that changes over time, like a score or a timer. The computer always needs to know what you're talking about when you say score, so it has a label. I'm going to make a new variable using this block here, this button here rather, that says make a variable. Fairly self-explanatory. And I'm going to call it score. Okay, now there's two blocks here that are slightly different, and they just need explaining before we go any further. One is set my variable to 0, and the other says change my variable by 1. So this is kind of an absolute figure. If I say set my variable to 0, it will do that each and every time. Right. If I was to change it by to 1, sorry, it would do that each and every time. If I was to change it by 1, it would add 1 to it. So first it would be 1, then it would be 2, then it would be 3. With set, it's going to remain at 0 every time. I don't want to set my variable though. That's the name of a different one. I'm going to set score to 0. The reason I'm doing that is because every time that the green flag is clicked, I want the score to kind of be reset. This is the beginning of the game. I want the score to be 0. I also want the time left on the clock to go back up to maximum. We don't yet have that, so I'm going to create a new variable called time left. There we go. And you see that they pop up on the screen here. At the moment, time left is 0. So at the beginning of the game, we need time left to go to. I'm going to give it 10 seconds. You can tweak these later on, but I just find that easiest for this webinar, really. I don't want to let it run too long during each game. So we've got set score to 0, set time to 10 every time I press the arrow up here. So if I give you a little demo of that, you can see that the time left has gone to 10. Nothing else is really happening though, because there's no code yet to like count down or to add to the score each time we get an egg. Okay. What I'm going to do now then is add the code that allows the timer to count down from 10. So The way I'm going to do that is go into the control menu, and I want a block, this slightly different shape block here. I'm going to grab the one that says repeat until and just add it to the bottom here. What this will do is when the program registers a click of the green flag, it'll just knock down to this one and it will set the score to 0. It will go down to this one, it will set the score to 10. Those things just happen one time, and then it's going to go down into here and do a repeat loop, and this is going to show it how to count, like take off a second, and then we're going to repeat that process until this condition here in this diamond shaped like hole is met, and that condition is going to be when the timer gets to 0, then you can continue. So I'm going to need another block from the operators menu. And we've got, I don't know if you remember from maths, operators are things like equals, plus, divide and stuff. I'm looking for the equals here that says, currently it says when blank equals 50. If I change that to 0 and then hop back into variables, I'll maximize this so you can kind of see what's going on a bit more. The variables that I've currently got have got this little tic-tac shape up here, this little lozenge shape for time left is the one. If I grab that one and I can just drop it down in there. So now this says when time left equals 0. I can now pop that into here, and this code will run until this is 0. So what we need to do really is just wait 1 second and then minus 1 from the total score, and then it will just repeat. So the first block we need is the wait 1 second bit, and luckily there is a block for that. It's in control, and it's actually the first block, and as you see quite handily it's already labeled wait 1 second. But you could of course change that to any value depending on what you're using that block for. It will be one that you use quite a lot in Scratch programming, so it's good to know it's there. So wait 1 second, and then of course we want to change time left by -1. So I'm using the change one rather than the set one this time. I'm just going to pop that in there under wait 1 second. Make sure that it says time left, so we're subtracting 1 from the right variable. So change the time left by, I don't want to make it go up 1, I want to make it go down 1, so that's just going to be -1. And now if I demo that, hit the green arrow here, we should see that the time left, you can see it counting down from 10, and when it gets to 0, it will be, the program will be released from this. There we go, released from this, and the program goes on. I don't actually have a kind of big game over screen or something like that, but you could then add on a little bit here of what happens next when the time runs out. What we can do though, because I don't want people to be able to keep playing after the time has run out, is I would quite like the egg to disappear, so it's quite clear that the game is over. So I can actually make that invisible now. If I go back into looks, there is a block called hide, which does exactly what it says. It will just hide that block. So now if I show you that one, it's counting down from 10 again. 5, 2, 1, and then it disappears. Fantastic. Now, while that is convenient, it does cause a slight problem if I want to play the game again, because now if I click the green flag, I can see the time is working, but the egg is not there anymore. And that's because when I was setting my initial variables up here, I set the score to 0, fine. I set the score to 10, the time left to 10, sorry. But I didn't tell it to make any invisible eggs visible again. So we're just going to add a block that says show, and I'm just going to wedge it up here in between these two blocks. That's going to be the first thing that happens now. You'll see that all the blocks rearrange themselves to make room for that. So now when the green flag is clicked, I will show the invisible eggs, set the scores and timer, and then start the countdown. So let's have a look, see that in action. And there we go. So the egg is interactive, the time is working, that's all good. It hides at the end and it appears in the middle, but we've still got no score. We want to just add a score every time it's clicked. Now, for that, I'm just going to go back over to the stack of code that we have here that says when this sprite is clicked. We want, in addition to these things happening, we also want 1 to be added to the score. And that is as simple as going to the change my variable block that we've got over here in variables, adding that onto the bottom, making sure that points to score. And now that should add to the score each time we press the egg. There we go. So we've already got a score, an egg that changes color, moves around, and the timer. Still looks a little boring in that we don't have the background. So this is the last thing to do. And again, it's something that you're, if you're doing this with kids or if you're doing this yourself, like you can be very creative here. Now, this button right down in the top right, the bottom right, shows you all the different ways to choose a background. You can upload a photo from your computer. You can get it to pick one at random. Boop. So it's just given a grid. Surprise, surprise. You can paint your own, much like we did with the egg, or just choose a backdrop from the sort of catalog that comes with Sprite. There's quite a lot here. I'm going to choose the one I showed in the example, really, just because it's a little bit foresty. And there we go. We've got we've got an egg, basically. If you wanted to make it a bit harder, you could make the egg smaller. So if I change the size of this sprite here, now we've got a smaller target. Oh, they do get stuck behind the score a little bit. You could make it so the egg gets smaller each time if you wanted to add some blocks in to do that. And you can add all sorts of things. So like adding a sound, for example. We've got an example sound in here because this egg started as a cat. I could just add in a pop. I think this one. Let's go with that. Now we've got a pop in our loaded into our sprite already. And if I just go to sound, I can start the sound pop and just add that in when the sprite is clicked. So now, just to add a bit of interactivity to the game. Okay, so that's that basically. If anyone's got any questions about what we've done there, then please just pop them in the chat.
Great, great.
Otherwise, I've got a couple of examples to show you of things you could do with this game if you wanted to make something other than an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, we've no immediate questions, Nick. So if you want to jump into some of your suggestions, and I'll show up the links that we made to give you the link to the finished project. So if anyone wants to see the finished project and look inside in the code and some of these variations as well, I'll have those showing up on the screen.
And we've got the instructions for the Easter egg game as well, as a PDF and as a document, I think, that we can share as well.
Yeah.
So this is basically the same game for the space game. Sorry, as the egg game, I've got this egg slightly rotating all the time. I call it an egg. It's just a sort of an alien thing. So just to show you that you can move right away from that theme. There's barely anything changed in this one. So you can do that. And then I've tweaked the code a little more to kind of create the the starting points of the eggs is a bit more constrained for this one, and to show a little bit more about the animations. This one's actually really hard because this guy's fast. But in this one, they are constrained to appear in one of 6 places and then run instead of staying in the same place. But this is essentially just the same game, but with a few more embellishments. So that's Scratch in a nutshell. I hope anyone at home coding along had a good time with that.
Great, great. Before we wrap up, I also just wanted to highlight that if anyone is trying to learn a bit more about Scratch, if this was one of your first introductions, we do have an introduction to Scratch project path, which includes 6 different projects that young people can work through, and they kind of develop their independence and creativity as they work through those projects. And as young people bring in their own design choices, they get a bit more independent as well. And those projects are great ways that they can learn how to make the projects their own and then enter them into Coolest Projects. And I also wanted to highlight how young people can enter their projects into Coolest Projects. So the website is coolestprojects.org. So if you go to that website, you'll see it here that registration is open. You can view the different events. So depending on whether you're going to enter the online showcase or participate in one of our in-person events, you can see the details about the UK event is here. The Ireland event registration has actually closed, but we also have partner events happening around the world as well that you can learn more about if you are in one of those countries as well. So you can see here event details and how to register. So what you'll need to do, so anyone who is over 13 can create an account on our website, and then they are able to fill in a short form just giving their project name, a description, and telling us a little bit about the project. And for anyone who's under 13, we ask that you get a parent or guardian or a mentor or volunteer if you're involved in a club to register your project on your behalf. Great.
That's right. And also, we want to see your work in progress projects too. It doesn't have to be finished and it doesn't have to work to be entered into Coolest Projects. It just has to have code in it.
Yes, exactly. And even for the online showcase, we ask young people, what would you do with your project if you had more time? So we are kind of expecting young people to be thinking about this as a work in progress. It doesn't need to be this very polished, finished project that they enter. The idea is that they're sharing what they're working on, getting ideas, getting inspired, and then they're able to continue developing it and iterating it. And as well as that, all young people who enter their projects get feedback, so they're able to use that feedback to even develop their projects further. Great. Well, I think that's everything that we have for today's live stream. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to us, hello@coolestprojects.org. And thank you so much, everyone who followed along and who, watched alongside and were coding their own projects while we were coding as well. It was great to have you here. And great. We look forward to seeing you either at the in-person events or seeing young people's projects that you enter into the online showcase.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite parts of the year is when we get to do the looking through all the projects that have been sent in. So yeah, we really are looking forward to those.
Great. Bye.
Bye, everyone.